This is the Sixth Man Show, an Orlando Magic podcast, with your hosts, Kevin Tucker and Jonathan Osborne, covering all things Magic basketball. By fans, for fans. Go Magic!
What's going on, Orlando Magic fans? You guys are back with the Sixth Man Show. Today is September 8th, 2025. Jonathan Osborne here, as always, joined by my co-host, Kevin Tucker. Kevin, how we doing, my friend?
Jonathan, I've got some really, really sad news to report. I did not win the Powerball, and I'm pretty upset about that. I really thought this was my time, but I'm still just a peasant. So anyway, how are you doing?
I didn't win the Powerball either, unfortunately. You know, it was so funny. You texted me that what was that, Saturday night? It was like 8:15, and I was like, oh my gosh, I haven't bought a Powerball ticket. So I drove to Publix and bought 2 Powerball tickets, and Carmen and I spent like the next half hour like talking about, okay, like if this happens, what are we doing with this money, you know? And just kind of going through, you know, all of the scenarios. And then woke up to find out that it was like Kentucky and Missouri or something like that. You know, 2 winners are, I guess, splitting that, which, like, that's got to be one of the craziest feelings ever, to be like, oh my gosh, I won the Powerball. But then to find out that you actually won half of that,
right,
does have to be a little bit of a letdown, I would assume.
Yeah, it stings a little bit. I don't know did you and Carmen go as far as I did, where like I looked up, like there's calculators online to
see how much you would actually get.
Yeah, yes. Like annuity, like if you take the annuity or like the lump sum. So I did all that, but unfortunately wasn't meant to be this time, but maybe next time.
I actually came across a lawyer on TikTok a few days ago. He's like a lottery attorney and like CPA. And he was going over like, this is, if you do win the Powerball, this is everything that you need to do beforehand. And obviously, like, he offers his services, and it was like, if you see this and you are the winner and you want to contact me, here's my email, blah, blah, blah. But this was when the Powerball was 1.4 billion. He laid out everything that, like, essentially you would only end up with like 460 something. And then once it got to 1.8, it would be like around like 5 point something or 600, which like is still plenty, but it is crazy to think about that you're getting taxed like $1.2 billion if you win the Powerball and you want the lump sum.
Yeah, it's a mix of taxes and plus what, like, come to find out, I didn't realize this. Now this is totally off the rails already, but long story short, the lump sum is the amount of money that they have on hand from this lottery. The annuities, which is where you get paid over 30 years, is the lump sum invested in bonds, and then you get paid off of the bonds. And so that's what they calculate the bonds to be worth over the course of 30 years, would be that 1.8 billion or whatever. The lump sum is actually the amount of money they have on hand. So that's your lottery, like, trivia for the day. And someone's going to leave a comment saying that I'm totally incorrect, and maybe I am, but that's how I understand it. And the internet's always right.
You're not a Powerball expert.
Not yet, but someday I plan to be. So sure, after I win.
Well, on a side note, quick football stuff. This is the first official like football Sunday of the year. You're all the way back with FSU after their, what was it, like 77-3 victory, and then USF upsetting, I think it was at the time number 13 or 14, University of Florida, which is crazy. Like, I grew up 40 minutes from USF's campus and know a ton of people that went there and graduated there. So have paid attention to them all my life, and never in a million years thought that, at least at this point in time, they would be able to go into the swamp and get a victory in what essentially was supposed to be like a tune-up game for Florida. Right. And for it to be Martin Grammatica's son, right, that pulled the trigger on that final field goal. Pretty wild weekend.
That was pretty cool. Yeah, I always enjoy when a bigger school pays another school to come into their building and they lose to them. That's always exciting for me, especially this one. Like, they paid them $500,000 to beat them in the swamp. So that was exciting. Yeah, it was fun. And then, NFL official first NFL Sunday today or yesterday as you guys are listening to it. So that was pretty fun too. Bucks pulled off a really weird win in Atlanta. Sorry about your Giants, unfortunately, but you called it. I mean, you said it. You get excited all offseason long, and then week one, you're like, oh yeah, this is what it is. But I will say, I think the Giants would have won if they started Jameis Winston, and so that's their own fault for putting him as their emergency QB. I don't want to hear it. If Jameis would have won it, he would have found a way. So
I don't know about that, but I do think there are, like, the season's not completely over, but just because the Giants, in terms of like the strength of schedule, they have the hardest schedule in the league this year. So next week they go to Dallas, then they come home for Kansas City. Very, reasonable chance that they start the season 0-3, which you start the season 0-3, you have like a 95% chance of missing the playoffs at that point.
Yeah.
So there were some good things, basically the 3 drives that Washington scored on, they looked amazing. The third one was basically because the Giants defense had been on the field the entire day. But the defense, especially the pass rush, looked really solid at times. The offense, for what feels like the 10th straight season, just looks completely lost. I don't know how we've been trying to build an offensive line for the last decade, and still it's just terrible. But I'm holding on to hope for the next couple of weeks. But yes, there is a very large possibility that once again, I'll be texting Luke and my friend's buddy, or Luke and my friend, me and Luke's friend Brandon. That's what I'm trying to say there. Goodness gracious. But we'll be texting like after week 3, like, hey, the season's over. Like, still a very good chance of that. Okay, let's talk some basketball, some Magic specific basketball as well. We're going to go to FIBA EuroBasket for an update here, as EuroBasket is now through the round of 16 and heading into the Elite 8 here, I guess you will. Both Magic vested teams, Germany and Georgia, are both moving on. Germany in a very, very strange way, going up against Portugal. I don't know what the line was on this game, Kevin, but I would assume, it was double digits. Germany like clearing away the favorite going into this game. And I think they were up 1 heading into the fourth.
Yep.
This through first 3 quarters of this game, I don't know that I've ever seen a game be that close and then the final result be as far apart as it was. Germany outscores Portugal 33-7 in the fourth quarter to win 85-58. And like the leaders of this German national team didn't really play to their standard, which was part of the reason that this game was so close through 3 quarters. But made plays in that fourth quarter. The defense obviously was fantastic and did what they needed to do to get the win here, Kev.
Yeah, it was a very strange one. As you said, it was a 1-point game. Germany was up 52-51 after 3, and they end up winning 85-58. So yeah, the fourth quarter was crazy. But the story for me was the first 3 quarters. If those that were watching it, they were tweeting about it, and it felt eerily similar to an Orlando Magic game, because through 3 quarters, if I remember correctly off the top of my head, at one point Germany was 1 for 24 from 3.
Yeah.
And this is a team that has, for the most part, shot the 3 ball pretty well, especially here in the group stage of EuroBasket. But for whatever reason, they could not buy a bucket from downtown until the fourth quarter. And the fourth quarter, they were able to open it up, including Tristan especially. I think Tristan had 11 points in that fourth quarter, including a couple triples that helped kind of extend that lead. And in fact, he got the last bucket of the game. And so, yeah, credit to Tristan. Tristan played really well in that fourth quarter. And defensively, too. You mentioned the defense. Tristan made several hustle plays, defensive plays. And again, Germany just kind of took over. It really seemed like, obviously, like I said, they couldn't knock down 3 to save their life through 3 quarters. But in the start of the fourth quarter, they knocked down a 3. And you felt they got a little bit of mojo back. Then once they knocked down the second 3, it's like, oh boy. And from then on, it was just an onslaught. They just took over the game. And the final score, ended up looking pretty nice, but don't let it fool you. It was very challenging through 3 quarters.
So Germany is moving on to the quarterfinals. So they will play Slovenia, who we saw them take on twice early in the friendly stage of this international cycle, which I believe they won both of those games.
Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, they only lost to Serbia. Yeah.
Yeah. Which, by the way, bounced by Finland.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, we were talking about, the way that Germany was able to take care of Finland in the group stage. And like, man, Finland doesn't want to see Germany again, but maybe they do because they took it to Serbia 92-86. Jokic was incredible, 33 points, but only 8 rebounds. Basically, it was the 2 NBA stars for each team. Jokic for Serbia, Larry Markkanen for Finland. Both of those guys were fantastic. And then like Lowry, like Finland's role players just stepped up in a bigger way than Serbia did. 92-86 was a very close game, but Serbia came into this tournament as the favorite. So huge upset, maybe not a huge upset, but it's a pretty big deal for Finland to get that win. Finland will play Georgia. Georgia got the win over France 80-70. Now, as we talk about France, like they're not sending their best guys. There's no Wembanyama, no Gobert, no Evan Fournier, right? But still, like plenty of NBA guys on this team. Bilal Coulibaly, Zachary Rissache, Theo Maledon, Gershon Yabusele, Timothy Luwawu Cabarro. Like they have Eli Okubo as well. Like they have a ton of NBA talent on this team. Yeah. And when you look at the other side for Georgia, it's only Goga and Mamuk Elishvili. Yeah. So, and Goga did not really have a great game. 25 points, 8 rebounds, and 8 points. Yeah. 25 minutes, 8 points, 2 rebounds in this one. Mamuk Elishvili, 14 points, but it was Kamar Baldwin and Tornike Shengelia, both with 24 points, showing up in massive ways to help boost Georgia over France. So now Georgia will play Finland in that quarterfinal here while Germany takes on Slovenia.
And here's the sad news for Magic fans. Let's say Georgia is able to win it, and let's say Germany's able to win it.
Yeah.
It's Germany versus Georgia in the semifinal. They don't even get to meet in the final. Like having an all Orlando Magic final at EuroBasket would have been so fun. Georgia versus Germany. Obviously, Georgia, an extreme long shot to make it that far. They'll likely be underdogs against Finland as well. I haven't checked those numbers yet, but regardless, yeah, if they both win this round, one of them is going to fall in the semifinal against the other. So, but yeah, I mean, that was I didn't get to watch this game, but that was a surprise to me. Like once I saw that Georgia had upset France, which by the way, this is an upset. Like I know you listed, that certain guys weren't there, but look at the rosters. Like you said, I mean, it's several NBA talent guys on France and just a couple for Georgia. So it is an upset. But anyway, when I looked at the box score, I expected Goga to have just gone off. Maybe not always scoring. We know that's not always Goga, but like, rebounding, block shots, all those kinds of things. And so to see just a pretty, I would even say subpar stat line for Goga compared to the rest of his EuroBasket so far. To see that, I was very surprised. And so shout out to the rest of his teammates for stepping up and getting a big upset over France. And yeah, we'll see how they do against Finland on, Wednesday? Yeah, both teams play Wednesday, Georgia and Germany in their respective quarterfinals on Wednesday.
Yeah, on Wednesday at 10 o'clock Eastern, it's Georgia versus Finland. And then later in the day at 2 o'clock Eastern, it'll be Germany and Slovenia.
By the way, that is like must-watch stuff right there at 2 o'clock. Like Luka against Franz. It's going to be electric. I'm excited for that.
Luka, who I believe at this point is still leading the tournament in scoring. Yeah, he's leading the tournament in scoring at 34 points per game. Franz and Dennis Schroeder are now 9th and 10th at 20.7 points per game and 20.2 points per game. And our buddy Tristan Da Silva, I'm checking, still hasn't broken the top 50, but like Tristan has really found his stride here in EuroBasket. I don't know if it was just some of the guys who were in and out of the lineup during like the friendly stages and like the first couple of games of the group stage, but it just didn't really seem like he knew what his role was going to be at the start of this. But like since these last 3 games, like really hitting his stride, 25 points against Great Britain, 11 versus Finland, 11 versus Portugal. Overall in the tournament, he's averaging 10.5 points per game, shooting 56.1% from the floor and 50% from three, adding 3.5 rebounds per game, a steal, and a block per game. So like Tristan, we had kind of like theorized about this before Tristan was officially announced as part of the German national team, but just like about how much he really would be such an asset and be able to contribute almost right away. And I've got to admit, like after those, friendly games and the first couple of games of the group stage, I wasn't sure if he was kind of ready for the physicality. I know that we had talked about that. But he has shut me right up and has been downright awesome these last few games. And I mean, they definitely win these games without Tristan. But as we get into, potentially playing Slovenia or Georgia or Finland or, Turkey or, whoever, as we get deeper into the tournament here, they were going to need Tristan da Silva if they want to, bring it all home in EuroBasket here.
Yeah, you just mentioned it, but with Serbia going out, with France, again, not their A team, but still a very strong team that I think was one of the contenders to win this. With Serbia out, with France out, Germany's up there at the top with probably Turkey as the two teams probably at the top of the leaderboard here as teams that might go out and win it. Obviously, you got to include Slovenia in there, Lithuania also not to be ignored, but pressure is kind of on Germany now, right? Like, if you ask me, especially when looking at their half of the bracket, if you find a way to beat Slovenia, then they'll certainly be probably double-digit favorites over the winner of Finland and Georgia again. And that puts you into the final against probably Turkey, maybe Lithuania. By the way, Shane Larkin and Turkey, by the way, which I always think is very interesting to see Shane Larkin play for Turkey. But regardless, Germany probably the favorites right now. And so a little bit of pressure on Franz and company, but we'll see how they do on Wednesday.
Right now, according to DraftKings Sportsbook, Germany is the pretty significant favorite at minus 125. And then it's Turkey and Greece, both plus 300. Okay. So right now, Germany is the, I don't want to say super heavy favorite, but that's a pretty heavy favorite right now for Germany. And so I would agree with that.
Greece is ahead of Slovenia. Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. Turkey and Germany both ahead of Slovenia. It's really because Slovenia, it's like Luka and that's it. Like I'm pretty sure he had, whatever it was, like 42 points.
Right.
I keep forgetting over Italy.
I keep forgetting Giannis is playing in this tournament. Yes, of course, Greece should be favored. I forgot he's playing. Yeah.
Which Greece, 84-79 over Israel. Which, like, I don't want to start getting geopolitical here, but like, since when is Israel part of Europe?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, I'm staying out of that one.
Correct.
Right now.
Yes, yeah. We absolutely are. But I was just like, like somebody made that point. And I was like, yeah, that is kind of weird. But anyways. Yeah. Looking forward to those games again. 10 o'clock on Wednesday for Georgia, and then it's going to be 2 o'clock for Germany and Slovenia on Wednesday. So looking forward to those. We interrupt this episode to bring you a word from our friends over at Jam Hot Chicken. Jam Hot Chicken is bringing jams, culture, and hot chicken to the heart of Winter Park, and they're now also bringing you 10% off every online order using code 6THMAN. That's spelled out SIXTH, man. You go to jamhotchickenfl.com, click on menu, and then click on the order now button and use code 6MAN at checkout. You get 10% off of every order, but you must order online. If you show up, you're not going to get that same deal. So if you're a fan of what we're doing here and you're a fan of Jam Hot Chicken, again, go to jamhotchickenfl.com, go to menu, order now, use that code 10% off. But Jam Hot Chicken is a Nashville and LA inspired hot chicken shack, locally owned and operated in Winter Park, Florida, located at 400 West New England Avenue, Suite 13 of Hannibal Square. Be sure to follow them at Jam Hot Chicken on all social media. And you can also order them on Uber Eats. So you can't leave the house, can't leave the office, but you still want Jam Hot Chicken. Download the Uber Eats app, get it downloaded to your phone, and get that Jam Hot Chicken delivered straight to you. Not only do we love Jam Hot Chicken because the food is delicious, but they're also diehard Magic fans. So be sure to stop by and let them know that the boys over at the Six Man Show sent you.
We also want to shout out Jared Cooper, Smiths, Sheiks, Ship, Sinks, Himlo Ban Himro, Danimal, and Drew Gooden. Those are 5 of our Hall of Fame and elite tier patrons. They went to patreon.com/The Six Man Show and decided that they wanted to financially support what we're doing here at The Six Man Show and joined at those Hall of Fame and elite tiers. We have several other tiers available as well. So you too can go there, patreon.com/The Six Man Show. If you want to financially support what we do here, whether you love the podcast, whether you love the post-game live shows that we do after every game, whether you love our watch parties or anything in between, again, patreon.com/The Six Man Show is the place to go. And a little bit heads up, we are right around the corner from our next big Patreon giveaway. It's going to be an autographed Jalen Suggs jersey. So if you want in on that action, again, patreon.com/The Six Man Show is the place to go. Big shout out to all of our patrons for sponsoring the show. And now let's get back to the episode.
Now, Kev, as we talked on our last episode with Dante, Dwight Howard going into the Hall of Fame on Saturday night. Awesome moment for him. Like, I know Dante was there. Brian, Coach Brian Hill was there as well. I saw Dante post some photos to his social media accounts. But just a reminder that it like truly is like a who's who of basketball, at that ceremony. I definitely want to make it there one day, whether it's Franz or Paolo or, whoever else, being inducted into the Hall of Fame someday. But just really cool to see some of the faces that turned out at that. And then, Dwight's speech was awesome. It wasn't maybe as emotional as maybe I thought it might be. And some of the other, obviously like the famous or infamous, Michael Jordan speech, in which we now have the crying Jordan meme from. But just an awesome night for Dwight. So happy that he got his flowers. What did you think of the ceremony and his speech?
Yeah, it was pretty special. I think especially like looking in that room and looking on that platform at some of the names and the faces that we all recognize and know and love, and to like for me especially, like looking up there and seeing Dwight in particular with the group that he was with Patrick Ewing, with Shaquille O'Neal, with Dominique Wilkins, and then obviously other guys from the NBA of the past that were there, but like seeing the guy that I saw get drafted by my favorite team when I was 12 years old, and how excited I was for that. And then got to follow his entire career, the stuff I loved in Orlando, the stuff I hated when he left, and other things, all the way up until 2025, to see him in that same class, in that same group of the best to ever play basketball. And it was just a really full circle moment. And in fact, like honestly, he has his hair these days, right? With those dreads that you pull back, and it looks great. But when it was pulled back and like he looked a certain direction, like it almost looked like young Dwight where there was no hair.
Yes.
And it just kind of made me flashback a little bit. I was like, man, I remember when he was drafted and walked across that stage and shook David Stern's hand and put on an Orlando Magic hat. And now he is on a different stage receiving a Hall of Fame induction. And it was just a really cool, special moment. Obviously for him, but even selfishly for me, for Magic fans, I think it was pretty cool. But yeah, what'd you think of it?
I thought it was awesome. I think I went into it with looking back on it now, like a really silly expectation that maybe he would talk a little bit about his exit from the Magic. Like selfishly, I like hearing him talk about that. And I guess this is a weird part of me that also like just kind of enjoys hearing that he regrets leaving, in a weird way. Like, not that I want this guy to, be remorseful all the time and like be sad, but just to like look back at, at the time, 19-year-old Jonathan, and just like all of the honestly hurt and anger that I had at that time of just the way that everything went down, and the fact that like, I was losing, my favorite player, in the world. And like looking back at that, like it kind of heals 19-year-old Jonathan, like hearing him talk about that. But, this really wasn't the appropriate time for him to reflect on that, right? Like this was supposed to be a total celebration of his career, in which it was. And I'm glad it was. So like, just kind of self-analyzing here in the moment, it was kind of wrong of me to hope for that and have that expectation. And I'm now in retrospect glad that he didn't. But yeah, like just hearing about, kind of his like humble beginnings. I think a lot of people don't really understand that, like what happened with Dwight is really like an anomaly, right? Like even the story of his birth, like his mom losing 7 children before, finally having Dwight. And the fact that he was at this small Christian school in Atlanta from kindergarten until he graduated, like a school that there was like, I don't know, 8 people, I think he said, like in his graduating class or whatever it was. And that team being as good as it was because he was, and then him becoming the first pick in the draft. And obviously we're going to talk a ton of like Dwight Howard retrospective, like Orlando Magic, but hearing him talk about that, and then he's a guy that didn't always make the right decision, but to his credit, like continue to fight through all the adversity that he faced, had a very long NBA career, ended up, winning a championship, and now is immortalized, in terms of a basketball perspective in the Basketball Hall of Fame. And I tweeted this out, I think either the night of the ceremony or the night before that, like, we talked about it on the show, but like, not only is this dude absolutely a top 75 guy and should have been part of the NBA 75, but like, I think at worst is like an all-time like top 50 guy. And when you start talking about how talented he was, and injuries kind of robbed him of, I think, what we would consider like an extended prime, right? Like he had like a 5 or 6 year window where he absolutely was one of the very best players in the league. But had it not been for like a lot of the stuff with the back, like that could have been 9 or 10 years of him being one of the best, players in the league. And yeah, just like seeing everything that he's been able to accomplish and just being able to celebrate that for himself and for his family was awesome. My personal favorite moment of the speech was the Stan Van Gundy impressions. It's crazy, just how good that is. Yeah. And seeing Stan there obviously was really cool. So yeah, just super happy for Dwight and happy for us.
Yeah, I was gonna say my favorite, the impersonation was good, but my favorite part was actually him mentioning Stan. Like, yeah, we don't really know what happened between Dwight and Stan. Like, obviously we can all
pretty good idea.
We can all read between the lines, and not even lines. Like, obviously the infamous Diet Pepsi thing. Like we all saw that. We have no
reason to think that Stan would lie about any of that.
Right. And so again, we don't know for sure, but we think we know. But I thought that was a really, really special moment because it almost felt like an indirect apology in some ways, meaning like this, he could have said anything on that platform. He could have made it all about himself. He could have done whatever. And the fact that he chose, he didn't single out a lot of people. Like, yeah, he thanked some people. He thanked some teammates. But I'm trying to remember. I'm pretty sure Stan was the only person that got like a whole paragraph, like of the people he thanked, he talked about his parents, obviously. But I mean, as far as people in basketball, he took his time to show his appreciation to Stan.
If we're talking airtime of the speech, Stan, even more than his parents and his family, I think got pretty close to the most.
And so I part of me wonders if it was like us men, sometimes we don't do a very good job of expressing our feelings or expressing remorse or apologizing. And it almost felt to me like that was Dwight, number one, showing his appreciation, obviously, to Stan, because to quote Dwight, it was something like, without Stan, there is no Dwight Howard. Without Stan Van Gundy, there's no Dwight Howard, and certainly no Hall of Fame. And so it felt like he was showing his appreciation, but also kind of saying sorry, right? Like, assuming things happen the way we think they did. That's kind of how I read it. And maybe I'm reading way too far into it, but that's kind of how I took it. But I thought it was great. I really loved that he threw that in there, and you could see the look on Stan's face. It looked like it meant a lot to him. So I thought that was really special.
Yeah, I would agree. I think that is probably it might be as close of a public apology as we'll ever get for the way that all of that went down. Yeah. And yeah, if we're being 100% fair here, we really don't know the way everything went down. I mean, I think we do, but that's But no, it was a really it was a really nice moment. But I was watching the ceremony, and in the day before, like getting really excited for everything, and just again, as we talked about, like this is kind of the first guy to go in that has felt like ours, which to the point you and I were discussing right before we started to record, kind of the two biggest moments. A couple of the moments during this that got sort of most of the crowd reaction kind of indirectly had to do with the Lakers, which didn't feel great, obviously. Like there's a part where he's talking about the 2020 championship, and then they cut like the big screen inside the auditorium there. They cut to LeBron James, which got a big reaction out of the fans. And when you're watching it in real time, you just hear the fan reaction first. You're not really quite sure of what's going on. So it felt like the Lakers fans were there, like getting all kind of hyped for Dwight Howard, which I was like, who the hell do you think you are? This is our guy. This isn't your guy. I don't care that he won a title for you. But then 10 seconds later to find out it's because they had LeBron like up on the big screen, which like makes sense. But it was just like, even in the moment that is supposed to be all about the Magic for us, it's like, of course, somehow the Lakers get, pushed into this, which, maybe I am the only person that cared about that, but it didn't, it was like, of course that would happen.
Yeah. The problem is it's not all about the Magic though, because he left. That's the problem.
I know.
That's the part that hurts. It's just another reminder. But I mean, look, that's part of being in the Hall of Fame. If you win a championship, they're going to talk about that just as much as everybody else or everything else that you've done. And so in some ways, I'm obviously glad that Dwight got a championship, blah, blah, blah. But yeah, seeing that up there, it is what it is. But for the most part, it was an Orlando Magic night, Orlando Magic moment. And yeah, it was pretty cool. And I was thinking about this too. Like, I mean, we're 3 weeks away from Media Day. We're just about done with what I can't think of anything close to it as an eventful offseason as we have ever had.
Yeah.
Like it has been, and I was thinking about that as part of the Dwight thing, because it's been a while since anything's happened in this offseason.
And we didn't even win the lottery.
I know, not yet. Yeah. No. Oh, you're talking about the draft lottery or the real lottery?
Draft lottery.
Yes. Yeah, because we talked about the other lottery earlier. But yeah, I was just thinking about it. I was like, man, this offseason has been crazy. Yeah. It's just been crazy. And I include the Dwight thing in it. So I don't know. It was pretty cool. But yeah, it's wow,
yeah, I don't think we'll ever see another offseason like what we just witnessed with the rebrand and like the team taking such a large step forward, and then like the greatest Magic player of all time being inducted into the Hall of Fame. At least for now, he is the greatest Magic player of all time. And I think that's a good segue, because the point that I was trying to make a couple of minutes ago before I sidetracked myself was that leading up to this, like I was really excited and I was tweeting about how Dwight Howard is the greatest Magic of all time, which we have talked about it, maybe at least 2, 3, maybe 4 times on the show over the years at this point as to how this really shouldn't be controversial. But somehow it still is, Kevin. And I do think so much of it has to do with people who have a real strong emotional connection to one player or another. Mainly Shaq. If you're going to make an argument for anyone else, it would be Shaq. But for you and I, it's Dwight Howard. Do you want to maybe tell our listeners just a little bit about like the criteria that we approach this conversation from? And like, it's odd to me for you to have really any other criteria than what you and I have with this conversation.
Yeah. But before I kind of go through that, like what I always tell people when they ask me, I think Shaquille O'Neal is the best Magic player ever. And I think Dwight Howard is the greatest Magic player ever. And what I mean by that is I do think that Shaquille O'Neal was the most talented basketball player in Orlando Magic history. Yeah. And I think even his accolades through his time in Orlando on a per season basis, yeah, he was better than Dwight, a better player. Mm-hmm. Where things kind of go off the rails for me is longevity. I think longevity plays a really big part in a greatest player in a franchise history or whatever. And that's where Dwight takes the cake in that realm. But then also, I mean, it was consistent performances over the course of his entire tenure there, and it was consistent winning over his entire tenure in Orlando. Again, Shaq did those things too. Shaq was a consistent performer. Shaq won a lot of games. Shaq went to the NBA Finals, all those things, but he left much, much, much earlier than Dwight. And so for me, that's where longevity has to play a part in it. And again, the other thing off the court, like everyone says, oh, Shaq is the reason that this team is in Orlando, blah, blah, blah. And that's definitely true, right? He helped put Orlando on the map as more than just a tourist destination. But the Magic are in Orlando also because of Dwight Howard. That's the other thing. Like, this team was getting ready to leave potentially in those 2000s, and they needed the Magic to get good, kid. They needed the Magic to get better. And it was because of Dwight Howard that the Magic got better, the Magic became relevant, and the Magic stayed in Orlando, and it's the reason that the Orlando Magic are still in Orlando in 2025 and now show absolutely no signs of going anywhere else. Like, the DeVos family has firmly planted their roots in Central Florida with this team, obviously investing in the Kia Center, which is going to be around a long time. And so for that reason, we also can thank Dwight Howard for the Magic being in Orlando. So those are just a couple things that come to mind. But longevity for me, loyalty, which again is funny because it didn't end with loyalty, but at least he was loyal to the Magic for, 8 years? Mm-hmm. Something like that. Yeah, long time. Let's see, drafted in 2004. Yeah, 8 years.
8 seasons.
Yeah, 8 seasons. So that means a lot to me.
And we have a pile of evidence that indicates that Shaq never wanted to be here in the first place and then left literally the second he could. And do we want to talk about the poll? Do we want to talk about, the initial lowball offer? Do I think that played a role? Yeah, maybe. But I also believe it just made it so much easier and more convenient for Shaq to leave and then point to like, oh, hey, this is why I left. And we have a mountain of evidence throughout his career to Shaq saying things that are, convenient and, kind of easy for him to take the easy way out. I do want to credit Shaq with this. The flower print suit was very clever, and the explanation that he gave for the suit was like, I'm finally giving my flowers like to Dwight, and then didn't make the evening or the ceremony about him at all, which I was pleasantly surprised to see. But my personal feelings of Shaq aside, yes, there are two separate conversations between who is the best and most talented player in Magic history, who would be Shaq, versus who is the greatest Magic player of all time and who has the biggest legacy as a player in blue and in the pinstripes. And it's Dwight Howard, and it's not close. I know we've done this a couple of times before, but I do just like to go through each player's tenure here in Orlando. As you mentioned, Dwight Howard, 2004 to 2012, 8 seasons. Shaquille O'Neal, 92 to 96, 4 seasons. Total points, Dwight Howard, 11,435, which comes out to 18.4 points per game. Shaq, 8,019 points, 27.2 points per game. In terms of rebounds, Dwight had 8,072, 13 per game. Shaq had 3,691 rebounds, 12.5 per game. Dwight, in terms of blocks, had 1,344, 2.2 per game. In blocks, Shaq had 824, 2.8 per game. In assists, Dwight had 935. Shaq had 716. Dwight, 1.5 per game. Shaq, 2.4 per game. Steals, Dwight had 626, 1 steal per game. Shaq had 243 steals, 0.8 steals per game. Shaq was a 4-time All-Star, led the league in scoring once, 3-time All-NBA, 1 second team and 2 third teams, had 4 consecutive years during his time in Orlando, finishing top 10 in MVP voting from 93 to 96, and led the Magic to the 1995 NBA Finals at 22 years old. Dwight, in 8 seasons, was a 6-time All-Star, 3-time Defensive Player of the Year, back-to-back, the only player to ever do that. Led the league in rebounding 4 times, led the league in blocks 2 times, a 6-time All-NBA, including 5 first teams and 1 third team, 5 All-Defensive teams, and then 4 consecutive years finishing in the top 5 in MVP voting from 2008 to 2011, and then led the Magic to the finals in 2009 at 23 years old. I want to pause here for just a second, like talking about league-wide accolades, because something that gets lost in all of this conversation about Dwight Howard is that he legitimately was one of the very best players in the league during that time. I had a conversation with someone on Twitter, and they tried to make an argument that Dwight never sniffed an MVP. Well, in what was that, 2010 or 2011, the Derrick Rose year, he finished second in MVP voting. And a lot of people to this day rightly argue that Dwight Howard should have won the MVP that year. So Dwight, during his time here, as well as Shaq definitely was one of the very best players in the league, but he was finishing top 10 in MVP voting. Dwight, during his time here and in his prime of primes, was finishing top 5 in MVP voting, finishing as high as second. And then all-time Magic accolades, Shaq is 6th in points, 3rd in rebounds, 2nd in blocks, 3rd in free throws, and 4th in win shares. Dwight is 1st in minutes, 3rd in games played, 1st in points, 1st in rebounds, 4th in steals, 1st in blocks, 1st in free throws, and 1st in win shares. So when we just talk about the resume of these guys in Magic uniforms, Kevin, it is not particularly close. We want to talk peak for peak. That's a different conversation. And we will concede that to Shaq as the best, most talented player in Magic history. But the greatest, most decorated player in Magic history is Dwight Howard. And it is not close.
Yeah, that's where I am. And again, the longevity, the loyalty has a big part of that for me, right? Again, you commit 8 seasons to a franchise, and to me, that says a lot. That speaks volumes, and especially a franchise like Orlando, where we tend to kind of cycle through guys a little more regularly than maybe some other franchises. And so when a guy chooses to stay for 8 seasons, especially an elite talent that he was, it means a lot. And so, yeah, for me, like, no one's going to have any kind of argument to sway me on that. But like you said, the good news is I don't think this debate's going to last too much longer. I have a feeling the greatest Orlando Magic player ever is currently playing in Orlando. And I think that's exciting. Maybe just a few years away. Yeah, yes, that's right. Jalen Suggs, Tristan Silva.
No disrespect to Tristan.
No, not at all.
But I mean, it's going to be Paolo Banchero.
Well, yeah, and honestly, Franz could supersede these guys too, right? Correct. I mean, again, I'm not saying best. I don't think Franz is going to be better than Shaquille O'Neal, okay? But again, we're talking about greatest.
Or better than Dwight Howard.
Yeah, or maybe even better than Dwight Howard. But when we talk about greatest, these guys that are currently on this roster have a runway ahead of them, a chance to absolutely do that. Again, long way to go. A lot they have to prove, a lot they have to figure out on the court. But the opportunity is there. And so it's really exciting to think about the fact that 3 to 5 years from now, we could be saying, yeah, Paolo, Franz, the 2 greatest players in Magic history. And yeah, that could be pretty cool.
And I would be lying if I did not admit that part of my feelings about both of these players and, you know, what I think makes Dwight the greatest Magic player of all time has been their attitude towards the franchise since then. Yeah. Dwight, since he's retired, has been, you could argue, like the best or as good as anyone in terms of like being an ambassador for this team, this city, and the brand. Where Shaq, on the other hand, other than, you know, coming to Orlando and getting celebrated, you know, last February with his jersey retirement, has like bashed the organization and the team time and time again. How are we gonna make that dude the beacon of our franchise all time when he can hardly, you know, show the team its proper love? Now, hey, doesn't always have to, like, we're not asking for this dude to lie, like, especially the last decade, like the team hasn't been good. But like just the most recent example that we have last year during the play-in game, picking his Hawks. Your Hawks? What the hell do you mean your Hawks?
Yeah.
What connection do you have to the Atlanta freaking Hawks, right? That's just one example that we have in a long line of examples over the course of especially the last 10, 15 years. So to me, I don't know about you, Kev, but that does play into my feelings of like, no, we should be celebrating the guy who, most recently is celebrating us. And when it comes to their exits, one guy definitely has been more, remorseful and has been more willing to accept accountability for his role in the way that things went. And honestly, Dwight has taken the blame. He's not been like, oh, well, the Magic kind of did this. He's like, no, I never should have left.
Yeah.
So to me, that's the guy.
Yeah, it took him a while to get there. But yeah, Dwight has recently said it. And honestly, like his quote, I can't remember the setting. You'll have to remind me, but he was asked to give advice to Paolo. Remember what he said? Do you remember this? Yeah, he said, stay. Don't go.
I don't know if it was the Pod Squad, but it was a podcast. Like it was around the time of his induction into the Orlando Magic Hall of Fame. Yeah. I don't know if it was the Pod Squad or like another podcast that he did, but yeah, he was like very emphatically like, stay.
Yeah. Yeah. And so for that reason alone, I'll take Dwight.
Trying to look up some Franz and Paolo stats right now to see if either one of those guys is starting to encroach on some of like the like all-time stats. So in terms of points, Franz is at 5,552. If Franz, this year Franz will crack the top 10 in like all-time Magic scoring. Dennis Scott is 10 right now at 6,603. Depending on the kind of season that Franz has, Franz could find himself, 10, 9, or 8. He could leapfrog Dennis Scott, Penny Hardaway. Can't believe I just read it like a total goober. And Evan Fournier, sadly, my sweet EF, number 10. Franz could catapult. I mean, if he has a really crazy year, he could leapfrog Hito as well. But he'd have to score like 1,700 and some odd points this year.
Nothing. That's nothing.
Yeah, well, Franz is going to be he's knocking on the door there. And then let's see where our buddy Paolo is in terms of total points right now. Paolo's got a little bit of ways to go, obviously just 3 years, but 4,432 total points. But by next year, maybe not this season, but I guess that'll be the 2026-2027 season. Both of these guys will start to be in like the top 10 rankings of all-time Magic history, statistically speaking.
Yeah. And I'm sure, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I guarantee you they've already surpassed both Shaq and Dwight in total threes made. So they've already passed those guys.
Correct.
In those stats. But yeah, it's super exciting, and we just got to keep the band together, keep on rolling, and let's see what they can do.
So Paolo all time in threes made is at 291. He's still got quite a ways to catch JJ Redick there at 549.
Yeah.
Franz, on the other hand, let's see Franz might even be, the number might not be as high as even Paolo at this point, the way that he shot the ball the last couple of years. Franz total 3-point field goals made 424. So maybe 2-3 seasons from now, Franz will be top 10 in 3-point field goals. But definitely ahead of the guys that you just mentioned. So, I think it's important, especially with Dwight going into the Hall of Fame, that we just kind of do like that little like retrospective of just how good he was here. And to the point that you mentioned, which arguably for us is the most important of them all. Without Dwight Howard, the Magic very well could be the Kansas City whatever. Right. Yeah. Like those were all the rumors that's where they were headed. And I'm forever grateful to the dude that kept my favorite team where it is. And obviously forever grateful to Shaq for putting them on the map.
Right.
But people say, oh, well, Shaq put this team on the map. It was like, yeah, and Dwight kept the team here. So let's not forget that part of the conversation.
Yeah. And I know I say this from time to time about different players, but if you are of a younger generation and you didn't watch Dwight Howard play, just get on YouTube tonight and just look up Dwight Howard highlights. And you just won't be disappointed. An absolute freak, an athletic freak. I've never seen a human specimen like him. The biggest shoulders you'll ever see. He was huge. He was strong. He was quick. He was an outrageous defender. Amazing. One of the best dunkers in NBA history. Just go watch yourself some Dwight Howard film, and you can thank me later.
Hey, the NBA did us a huge solid because 2 days ago, they uploaded his 40-point game to their YouTube channel in Game 6 of the Eastern Conference Finals in 2009. We're going to go ahead and what was it, like 40 points, 14 rebounds?
Yeah, something
crazy it was in
like
that game.
Yep.
So we're gonna put that in the YouTube description, in the podcast description. So if you want to go back, if you haven't seen Dwight Howard, this is the Dwight Howard game to watch with everything on the line. Yeah. The dude showed up, and if his body wasn't like breaking down, like if the dude was healthy, you could count on him every single night to give you 20 and 12, pretty close to that.
And unrelated, sort of related, if you're, again, a younger person and you watch that video and you're like, wait, is that LeBron James? Yes, LeBron James was still playing back then. So he's been doing this a long freaking time. That dude is insane. And so probably worthy of those cheers that he got at the Hall of Fame ceremony, sure. I guess.
Yeah, maybe.
I guess.
And people also, this isn't Dwight or Shaq necessarily related, but people don't realize that the only team in NBA history to beat both Michael Jordan and LeBron James in a playoff series is the Orlando Magic.
Yep, that's right.
Throw some freaking respect on our name.
Can never take that away from us. That's the way it is. So, yep.
All right, Kev. That's all I've got. Do you have any other points that you would like to make before we go ahead and wrap this one up?
I just think that's it. Dwight's the GOAT. Go Germany. Go
the
Georgia.
G-mote.
The what?
The G-mote.
The greatest magic of all time. Is that what that is?
Greatest magic of all time, baby.
G-mote.
G-mote right there, baby.
Fine. But yeah, go Dwight. Go Georgia. Go Germany. Let's have ourselves a great week. And that's all I got.
Let's do it. All right. Thanks, everybody, for hanging out with us, listening to this one. For Kevin Tucker, this has been Jonathan Osborne. You all have been listening to The Sixth Man Show, and we will catch you guys next time. See ya.
Thanks for listening to The Sixth Man Show. Be sure to subscribe on iTunes and Spotify to get new episodes downloaded directly to your phone. If you enjoyed the show, please take a minute to give us a 5-star rating and a review. It helps out the show a lot. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at Sixth Man Show. We'll catch you guys next time. Go Magic!